Chapter 1. The Awakening. The fluorescent lights burned into my retinas as consciousness dragged me back from the void. My head felt like someone had used it as a drum, and every breath sent sharp pains radiating across my ribs. I tried to piece together where I was: sterile white walls, the steady beep of monitors, the chemical smell of disinfectant. A hospital. But how? The last thing I remembered was nothing. Just darkness. I was Jonathan Stout, 36 years old, and for the life of me, I couldn't remember what had landed me here. My hand instinctively reached for my wedding ring. Still there, a small comfort in the confusion. A nurse entered, mid-40s, kind eyes, name tag reading Sherry Gamble. She checked my vitals with practiced efficiency, but I caught something in her expression. Concern? No, something deeper. Fear. "Mr. Stout," she said quietly, glancing toward the door. "I need to speak with you. Alone." Before I could respond, she continued in a hushed tone. "Your wife brought you in 3 hours ago. Said you fell down the basement stairs at home." She paused, her eyes meeting mine with unsettling intensity. "Sir, I've been a trauma nurse for 22 years. These aren't fall injuries." My stomach dropped. "These are blunt force trauma wounds. Multiple impact points. Different angles." She leaned closer. "Someone beat you, Mr. Stout." "Badly." The words hung in the air like smoke. Christina had told them I fell? My wife of 8 years, who I'd built a life with, who shared my bed every night, had lied to the hospital staff? Nurse Gamble reached into her pocket and produced a manila envelope. "About 30 minutes before your wife arrived, a kid came to the ER desk. Maybe 13, 14 years old. Blonde hair, skateboard. He asked which room you were in, then handed me this. Said, and I quote, 'Give this to Mr. Stout. Tell him to watch it alone. Tell him not to trust anyone.' Then he left." My hands trembled as I took the envelope. Inside was a USB drive, unmarked except for a piece of tape with 2 words scrawled in adolescent handwriting: "Watch alone." "I don't know what's on that drive," Sherry said, "but that kid looked terrified. And your injuries. Mr. Stout, you need to be careful. I've documented everything in your file, the inconsistencies, the injury patterns. If you need help." The door swung open. Christina walked in, her face the perfect mask of concern. She was still beautiful, dark hair, green eyes that used to make my heart skip. But now, looking at her through the haze of pain and Nurse Gamble's words, I saw something different. Something calculated behind that worried expression. "Jonathan, oh thank God, you're awake." She rushed to my bedside, reaching for my hand. I let her take it, watching her performance. "You scare me to death." "That fall." "I don't remember falling," I said carefully. "You hit your head, baby. The doctor said short-term memory loss is normal with concussions." Her grip tightened. "You were going down to fix the water heater. I heard the crash and found you at the bottom of the stairs. You're lucky I was home." Lucky. The word tasted bitter. Nurse Gamble gave me one last meaningful look before excusing herself. Christina's perfect mask slipped for just a second, a flash of something cold in her eyes as she watched the nurse leave. "What did she say to you?" Christina asked, her tone light but insistent. "Just checking my vitals." I lied, palming the USB drive. "When can I go home?" "Doctor wants to keep you overnight for observation." "I'll stay with you." She settled into the chair beside my bed, pulling out her phone. "I already called your brother. Told him you're okay." My brother Frederick, 2 years older, a corporate attorney in Boston. We'd been close once, before he married Vicky Thomas, a woman who'd driven a wedge between us with her constant drama and manipulation. But Frederick and I still talked every few weeks. "That's good," I said, my mind racing. The USB drive felt like it was burning a hole in my palm. Whatever was on it, Christina couldn't know I had it. Over the next hour, Christina played the devoted wife, fluffing pillows, adjusting blankets, asking nurses about my care. But I caught her watching me when she thought I wasn't looking. Calculating. Assessing. When she finally stepped out to grab coffee from the cafeteria, I moved fast despite the pain screaming through my body. My laptop bag sat in the corner. She'd brought it, probably to maintain appearances. I pulled out my laptop, hands shaking as I inserted the USB drive. One file. A video. Dated yesterday, 9:47 p.m. I pressed play. The footage was shaky, clearly shot on a phone from behind bushes. My house. The camera focused on our living room window. I could see myself inside, sitting on the couch with my back to the window, working on my laptop like I did every evening. Then Christina entered the frame. She wasn't alone. A man followed her, tall, muscular, mid-30s with dark hair. Ramon Osborne. I knew him. He was her personal trainer, someone she'd hired 6 months ago to help her get back in shape. I'd met him twice, shaken his hand, paid his invoices like a trusting fool. In the video, they weren't exercising. They were kissing. Passionate, familiar, the kind of kiss that spoke of intimacy and history. My chest constricted as I watched my wife, pull him toward the hallway, toward our bedroom. But the video didn't end there. The camera angle shifted, following them. Whoever was filming had moved around the house. The teenager filming whispered into the phone, "Okay, they're going upstairs. Mr. Stout's still in the living room. He has no idea. I'm getting closer." The kid was Matthew Townsend, the neighbor's son, a quiet skateboard kid who'd always been respectful, who I'd helped with his history homework last month. The video showed Matthew moving to another window. And then the scene that made my blood run cold. Ramon came back downstairs. Alone. He moved silently behind me as I worked on my laptop, completely oblivious. In his hand was something metal, a fire poker from our fireplace. "Mr. Stout, behind you." Matthew's voice hissed from the recording, but of course I couldn't hear him that night. The first blow caught me across the back of my head. My body jerked forward in the video, laptop crashing to the floor. I tried to turn, tried to defend myself, but Ramon was faster, stronger, trained. He hit me again. And again. I watched myself get beaten in my own home. Christina appeared in the doorway, watching. Just watching. She said something to Ramon. The video had no clear audio, and he nodded. A few more blows, then he stopped. My body slumped on the couch, blood running down my face. Christina checked my pulse, then pulled out her phone. Making the 911 call, I realized. Setting up her story. Ramon slipped out the back door while she staged the scene, positioning me near the basement stairs. The video ended with Matthew's terrified whisper, "I'm calling 911 too. And I'm getting this to you. Be careful, Mr. Stout. She's dangerous." I sat in that hospital bed, USB drive clenched in my fist, and something inside me crystallized. The shock, the betrayal, the pain, it all hardened into something cold and clear. Christina wanted me dead, but I was very much alive. And Jonathan Stout, documentary filmmaker who'd spent 15 years exposing liars and criminals on camera, who'd won awards for investigative journalism, who'd survived war zones and cartel territories to get the truth. I was going to make sure they both paid for what they'd done. Not with police reports or divorce lawyers. With their own poison. Chapter 2. The Pieces. Christina returned with coffee and a smile that no longer fooled me. I'd spent the last 10 minutes composing myself, hiding the laptop, securing the USB drive in the inner pocket of my jacket. My face must have been convincing enough, because she settled back into her vigil without suspicion. "Frederick's catching a flight tomorrow," she said, scrolling through her phone. "He's worried about you. Tell him I'm fine. No need to disrupt his work." I kept my voice steady despite the rage simmering beneath. Every word from her mouth felt like another lie, another manipulation. She nodded, then reached for my hand again. "Jonathan, I know this is scary, but we'll get through this together. We always do. We. Together." The words were ash, but I played along. "I love you, Chris." Her smile widened. "I love you too, baby. Get some rest." I pretended to sleep, watching through barely open eyes as she settled in with her phone. Around midnight, she started texting someone, her fingers flying across the screen, a small smirk playing at her lips. Ramon, probably. Planning their next move, celebrating their success. They thought I was broken, compliant, a victim with convenient memory loss. They were wrong. The next morning, they released me with a prescription for painkillers and a follow-up appointment. Christina drove us home, keeping up her caring wife act. As we pulled into our driveway, I studied the house with new eyes. The basement window where Matthew must have filmed from, the living room where I'd been attacked, every corner now tainted with betrayal. "Why don't you rest?" Christina suggested as we entered. "I'll make you something to eat." I nodded and headed upstairs, but instead of resting, I stood in our bedroom, the room she'd brought Ramon into, and began piecing together the truth I'd been too blind to see. The signs had been there for months. Christina and I met 9 years ago at a gallery opening in Manhattan. I'd been there covering a story about art fraud, She'd been the gallery coordinator. Beautiful, charming, with an infectious laugh that lit up rooms. We'd married within a year, and for a while, it had been good. But looking back now, I could see the patterns. Christina came from money, old Connecticut wealth, the Harrington Family Trust Fund. Her father, a hedge fund manager, had cut her off when she was 25 for lifestyle choices he disapproved of. She'd never given me details, always dismissing it as controlling parent bullshit. I'd believed her, supported her dream of opening her own art gallery, used my own savings to help her start up. The gallery had failed within 2 years. Bad location, she'd said. Wrong market timing. I'd held her while she cried, told her we'd rebuild together. Then came the personal trainer 6 months ago, Ramon Osborne, with his private gym and expensive clientele. Christina had insisted she needed to feel good about herself again after the gallery failure. I'd supported that too, never questioning the late-night sessions or the new lingerie that appeared in her drawer. God, I'd been such a fool. I pulled out my phone and started digging. My journalism background made me thorough, paranoid even. I'd always kept detailed records, financial statements, emails, receipts. Things Christina thought I'd never check. Our joint account showed regular withdrawals I'd never noticed before. 500 here, 1,000 there. Always cash. Always with vague explanations I'd accepted without question. In 6 months, nearly $30,000 had disappeared. Then there were the credit cards, ones I didn't know existed. In her name, yes, but with charges that painted a picture. Expensive hotels in Manhattan, restaurants I'd never been to, jewelry purchases she'd never shown me. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mr. Stout. It's Matthew Townsend. Can we talk? I know more. But not at your house. The diner on Oak Street. 2 p.m. I glanced at the time, 1:30 p.m. Christina was still downstairs, humming in the kitchen like she hadn't orchestrated attempted murder less than 48 hours ago. I typed back, I'll be there. The diner was a local fixture, red vinyl booths, checkered floors, the smell of coffee and frying bacon. Matthew sat in the back corner, a baseball cap pulled low, knee bouncing with nervous energy. He looked up as I approached, relief flooding his young face. Mr. Stout. Jesus, I'm glad you're okay. I slid into the booth across from him. That video saved my life, Matthew. How did you? I was filming for my photography class, he interrupted. We're doing a project on suburban life at night. I was in your backyard. I know, trespassing, stupid, trying to get shots of the tree shadows when I saw Mrs. Stout and that guy through the window. His hands shook as he gripped his coffee mug. At first I thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe it was innocent. But then he attacked you. I didn't know what to do. I called 911 first, but then I thought she was gonna lie. I could tell. So I made a copy of the video and brought it to the hospital. You did the right thing, I said quietly. You said you know more? Matthew pulled out his phone, sliding it across the table. I've been watching your house since your wife hired that trainer guy. Not in a creepy way, he added quickly. But my mom works nights, and I'm usually up late editing photos. Your house is right across from mine. I've seen things. He showed me a folder of images, all time-stamped. Ramon arriving at our house when I was away on assignment. His car parked in our garage overnight, 3 separate occasions. Christina and Ramon at a restaurant in the city, dressed up, holding hands like lovers. There's more, Matthew said, voice dropping. That night, after they attacked you and the ambulance came, I followed Ramon. Stayed far back on my bike. He didn't go home. He went to this apartment building in Riverside, the expensive ones by the water. He met someone there. A woman. He showed me another photo. Ramon entering a building with an attractive blonde I didn't recognize. Her name's Billie Harrington. I looked her up on social media. She's some kind of pharmaceutical rep. Harrington. Christina's maiden name. That's Christina's cousin, I said, pieces clicking together. They were close growing up. I haven't seen her in years. She's always traveling for work. Matthew nodded. I think they're all working together. I heard them talking in the parking garage. I was hiding behind a car. Ramon said something about the policy and waiting period, and Billie said, once he's gone, we split it 3 ways. Life insurance. My heart rate spiked. I'd updated my policy 2 months ago. Christina had suggested it, said we needed better coverage now that we were planning to start a family. A plan I'd been excited about, another dream she'd manipulated me with. $500,000. Beneficiary, Christina Stout. Matthew, I said carefully. Did you tell anyone else about this? No, sir. My mom doesn't know. I didn't go to the cops because... He hesitated. My older brother had trouble with police a few years back. Nothing serious, but I'm nervous around them. And I figured they wouldn't believe me anyway. It's just a kid's word against adults. Smart kid. Scared, but smart. You did exactly right, I told him. But I need you to promise me something. Delete nothing. Keep everything backed up somewhere safe. And stay away from my house. Don't film, don't watch, don't engage. These people are dangerous, and I won't have you getting hurt. What are you going to do? He asked. I leaned back, mind already working through the angles. Ramon Osborne, Billy Harrington, Christina Stout. A conspiracy to commit murder for insurance money. I'm going to give them exactly what they want, I said. And then I'm going to destroy them with it. I spent the rest of the afternoon at a coffee shop across town, laptop open, digging into my would-be killer's lives with the skills I'd honed over 15 years of investigative journalism. Ramon Osborne, 34, personal trainer and gym owner. On the surface, successful, glossy Instagram, wealthy clients, featured in local fitness magazines. But beneath the curated image, I found cracks. His gym, Osborne Elite Fitness, was hemorrhaging money. Commercial real estate records showed 3 months of missed rent payments. His landlord had filed an eviction notice. Business licenses were expiring, insurance lapsed. The man was drowning in debt. Credit reports, obtained through channels I'd cultivated over years of investigative work, showed maxed out cards, a repossessed Porsche, and a lawsuit from a former business partner alleging fraud. Ramon needed money desperately. Then there was Billy Harrington, 31, pharmaceutical sales representative. Christina's cousin, her partner in crime. Social media showed a glamorous lifestyle, designer clothes, exotic vacations, expensive dinners. But employment records told a different story. She'd been fired from her last 2 pharmaceutical companies. The reasons weren't public, but I had contacts. A few phone calls to industry friends revealed a pattern. Falsified sales reports, stolen samples, inappropriate relationships with doctors to push medications. Billy was a con artist in a blazer. And Christina, my wife, the woman I'd loved, supported, trusted, she'd orchestrated it all. I pulled up our banking records again, tracking every withdrawal, every suspicious charge. The pattern was clear. She'd been planning this for months, slowly draining our accounts, positioning assets. 3 desperate, greedy people who saw my life insurance policy as their salvation. But they'd made a critical mistake. They'd left me alive. My phone buzzed. Christina, checking in. Where are you? Getting worried. Come home soon. XO. XO. Hugs and kisses from the woman who'd watched her lover beat me unconscious. I typed back. Needed some air. Driving around, clearing my head. Doctor said light activity is good. Home by dinner. Her response was immediate. Okay, baby. I'm making your favorite, chicken parmesan. Love you. I stared at those words. Love you. And felt nothing but cold calculation. Jonathan Stout, the documentary filmmaker, had always believed in truth. In exposing evil, bringing it into the light, letting justice prevail. I'd spent my career taking down corrupt politicians, corporate fraudsters, human traffickers. Always through proper channels. Always with evidence that held up in court. But this was different. This was personal. And for the first time in my life, I didn't want justice from a courtroom. I wanted revenge. Chapter 3. The Revelation. Dinner was a carefully choreographed performance. Christina had set the table with candles, poured wine, played soft music, creating the illusion of intimacy while plotting my death. I played my part perfectly, the grateful husband, still shaken from his accident, grateful for his devoted wife's care. This is delicious, I said, forcing a smile. You always know how to make me feel better. She reached across the table, squeezing my hand. That's what marriage is about, right? Taking care of each other. The irony was suffocating. After dinner, I excused myself to my study, claiming I needed to catch up on work emails. In reality, I needed to finalize my plan. Because in the last few hours, something had crystallized in my mind, a way to not just expose them, but to make them destroy themselves. My phone rang. Frederick, my brother. Jonathan, Jesus Christ. Christina told me you fell down the stairs. His voice carried that older brother concern mixed with skepticism. That doesn't sound like you. You're the most careful person I know. Yeah, well, Accidents happen, I said carefully. We were close, but I couldn't risk telling him the truth yet. Not until I had everything in place. How's Boston? Cold. Vicky's driving me insane as usual. He sighed. Listen, I'm coming down this weekend whether you like it or not. Something feels off about this whole thing, and I want to see you in person. Frederick had always been perceptive. Even when we were kids, he could read people, sense when something was wrong. It's what made him a successful lawyer. I appreciate it, I said. Actually, I might need your legal expertise on something. Not ready to talk about it yet, but soon. A pause. Jonathan, are you in trouble? Not me, I said, but some people are about to be. After we hung up, I opened my safe and pulled out 2 items. My backup hard drives containing 15 years of investigative work and a small digital recorder I'd used for countless undercover interviews. Time to gather evidence. Over the next 3 days, I played the perfect victim while secretly dismantling their conspiracy from the inside. Step 1 was easy. I stayed home, acting weak and injured, giving Christina plenty of opportunities to believe she was in control. She hovered, attentive and loving, while texting constantly, no doubt coordinating with Ramon and Billy. Step 2 required more finesse. I planted a series of listening devices throughout the house, tiny, professional-grade equipment I'd used for investigations. In our bedroom, the living room, her car. Everywhere she might feel safe enough to talk. The recordings were damning. Day 1, 11:47 p.m., bedroom. Yeah, baby, I miss you too. No, he's completely clueless. The memory loss is perfect. What? No, I'm not worried about that nurse. Who's going to believe some random nurse over his own wife? 2 more weeks. The doctor said wait 2 weeks before any strenuous activity. Then we can finish this. I love you too. Can't wait until we're together for real. Day 2, 3:23 p.m., kitchen. Billy, I'm telling you, it's all going according to plan. He updated the policy. I witnessed it myself. 500,000. Split 3 ways like we agreed. Minus the 20% for your contact, who'll help process it quickly. Yes, 2 weeks. Ramon says we need to be patient. Can't be too obvious. This was your idea. Don't get cold feet now. Day 3, 10:15 a.m., her car. Mom, I can't talk long. Yes, I know you're disappointed in me. You've made that clear for years. Well, maybe if Dad hadn't cut me off, I wouldn't have had to marry for money. Don't act shocked. You knew Jonathan wasn't love, he was stability. Now I'm fixing my mistakes. Goodbye, Mother. That last conversation was revelatory. Christina had married me for financial security, not love. Our entire relationship had been a transaction to her. But I needed more than recordings. I needed something concrete, something that would bury them so completely they'd never recover. That's when I got creative. I'd spent years building relationships with people in various industries, journalists, private investigators, law enforcement, tech specialists. Now I called in every favor I was owed. First call, Detective Sherry's cousin, a retired cop named Joseph Huff who now ran a private investigation firm. I'd helped him expose a corrupt police chief 5 years ago. He owed me. Joe, I need surveillance. Professional grade. 3 targets. I gave him Ramon's address, Billy's apartment, and Christina's usual routes. I need to know everywhere they go, everyone they meet, every move they make. Jesus, Jonathan, what did you get yourself into? I'll explain everything when this is over. For now, just trust me. And Joe, if anything happens to me, there's an envelope with my attorney. Everything goes public. Second call, a forensic accountant named April Romero who specialized in financial fraud. I'd interviewed her for a documentary about corporate embezzlement. April, I need you to analyze some financial records. I'm looking for money laundering, hidden accounts, anything that doesn't add up. I sent her encrypted files of Christina, Ramon, and Billy's finances. No stone unturned. Third call, an old friend from my journalism days, Jerry Bliss, who now worked in life insurance fraud investigation. Jerry, hypothetically, if someone updated their life insurance policy and then had a suspicious accident shortly after, what would trigger an investigation? Multiple red flags, he said. Recent policy changes, especially increases. History of financial problems with the beneficiary. Medical evidence inconsistent with stated cause of injury. Why? You working on a story? Something like that. What if I could provide evidence of conspiracy to commit murder for insurance proceeds? Jonathan, That's not a story anymore. That's a criminal case. If you have evidence, you need to go to the police. I will, I promised. But I need it to be airtight. These people can't slip through on technicalities. By day 4, the pieces were falling into place. Joe's surveillance showed Ramon and Billy meeting regularly at a motel outside town. April found a joint bank account, opened 3 months ago, in Ramon and Billy's names, funded with cash deposits that matched Christina's withdrawals. They were already spending my life insurance money. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Nurse Sherry Gamble called my cell phone directly. "Mr. Stout, I hope I'm not overstepping, but I kept thinking about your case. Those injuries bothered me, so I looked deeper into your medical records." She paused. "2 months ago, your wife brought you to urgent care for food poisoning. Severe, they almost hospitalized you. Do you remember?" I did. I'd been violently ill for 3 days. Christina had been so caring, so worried. "The symptoms are consistent with certain types of poisoning," Sherry continued. "Not enough to kill, but enough to weaken you, make you vulnerable. Mr. Stout, I think someone's been trying to hurt you for longer than you realize." My hands clenched. They'd been poisoning me, testing the waters, literally? "Thank you, Sherry. You might have just saved my life again." "There's more." I asked around, quietly, about your wife. "My friend works at a pharmacy near your house. Your wife filled a prescription last month. Sleeping pills. High dose. Not prescribed to either of you. Sleeping pills. To make sure I wouldn't wake up when they made their final move." Everything clicked into place. This wasn't just about insurance money. This was premeditated, calculated murder. They'd been planning it for months, poisoning me, weakening me, setting the stage. And they were about to try again. That night, I sat in my study and mapped out the final phase of my plan. It was risky, possibly illegal, definitely dangerous. But I'd learned something crucial over my years documenting human depravity. The best way to catch a predator is to let them think they've already won. Day 5, I called a family meeting. Christina looked surprised when I suggested we invite Ramon over for dinner. "I want to thank him properly," I said, "for all the training sessions, for helping you. He's been such a positive influence." Her eyes flickered. Uncertainty, calculation, then decision. That's very sweet of you, honey. I'm sure Ramon would love that." Of course he would. They'd think it was the perfect opportunity. I also invited Frederick and Vicky, claiming I wanted family around after my accident. And in a stroke of inspiration, I invited Billy too. "I know you and Billy haven't been close lately," I told Christina. "But family is important. Life's too short for petty disagreements. Let's reconnect." Christina's mask almost slipped. "Billy's very busy with work. I already called her. She's coming." I smiled. "Seemed really eager to see you, actually." That evening, 6 people gathered around our dining table. Me, Christina, Ramon, Billy, Frederick, and his wife Vicky. The scene looked normal, domestic, a dinner party among friends and family. But beneath the surface, 4 people were conspirators in attempted murder. One was a confused lawyer, and one, me, was about to spring a trap. "I want to thank everyone for being here," I said, raising my wine glass. "This accident really put things in perspective. Life is fragile. We need to appreciate the people we love, the relationships that matter." Christina beamed. Ramon nodded solemnly. Billy smiled her pharmaceutical rep smile. Frederick watched me with narrowed eyes. He knew something was off. "In fact," I continued, "I've been thinking about the future. Christina and I have been talking about starting a family. So I met with my financial advisor this week and updated some things." Christina's hand froze halfway to her wine glass. "I increased my life insurance policy," I said. "Doubled it, actually, to $1 million. Ramon's fork clattered against his plate. Billy's smile turned brittle. "And," I continued, pulling out an envelope, "I've prepared a new will. Very detailed. I wanted to make sure everyone important to me is taken care of if anything ever happens." I handed the envelope to Frederick. "As my attorney brother, I thought you should review it. Make sure it's all legal and binding." Frederick took the envelope slowly, his lawyer instincts clearly screaming. "Jonathan," Christina said, voice tight, "this is so morbid. You're going to be fine. Why are we even talking about this?" "Humor me," I said. "I just want everything in order." The dinner continued in strained silence. Ramon kept glancing at Christina. Billy drank her wine too quickly. Christina's face was a mask of barely contained panic. They thought I was making it easier for them, doubling the payout. But I was really painting a target on my back so bright, so obvious, that when they made their move, there would be no doubt about intent. After dinner, as people filtered out, Frederick pulled me aside. "What the hell is going on?" he whispered urgently. "That performance in there, you're baiting them." "Them who?" "Jonathan, what aren't you telling me?" I met my brother's eyes. "Tomorrow. Come to my office tomorrow at 9 a.m. Bring your legal expertise. I'm going to tell you everything. And then I'm going to need you to help me in this." He studied my face, the bruises still fading, the determination in my eyes, and nodded. 9 a.m. Don't do anything stupid before then. As everyone left, Christina cornered me in the kitchen. "Why did you do that?" "The insurance, the will, why without discussing it with me first?" "I wanted to surprise you," I said innocently. "Aren't you happy? Now you're protected if anything happens to me." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Of course. I love you. The thought of anything happening to you." "Nothing's going to happen," I assured her. "I'm perfectly safe." That night, lying in bed next to the woman who wanted me dead, I didn't sleep. I listened to her breathing, watched her check her phone under the covers, saw her smile in the darkness. And I waited. Because tomorrow, phase 2 would begin. Tomorrow, I would make them show their hand. Tomorrow, the hunter would become the hunted. Chapter 4. The Truth Exposed. Frederick sat in my office at 9 a.m. sharp, coffee in hand, lawyer face on. I'd rented this space under a shell company named 3 years ago, a place where I could work on sensitive investigations away from home. Christina didn't know it existed. "Talk," Frederick said, "and don't leave anything out." I showed him everything. The video from Matthew, the recordings of Christina's phone calls, the financial records April had analyzed, the surveillance photos from Joe, the medical evidence from Sherry. Piece by piece, I laid out the conspiracy. My brother's face went from skeptical to shocked to furious. "They tried to kill you," he said finally, voice tight. "Your own wife. Jonathan, we need to call the police right now. This is attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud." "And I will," I interrupted. "But not yet. Right now, we have evidence, but not enough for guaranteed convictions. Good lawyers, people like you, could create reasonable doubt." He fell. Coincidental timing. Circumstantial evidence. They could walk. "So what's your plan?" I pulled out a folder labeled Phase 2. "I'm going to make them try again. But this time, it'll be on camera, with witnesses, with evidence so damning no lawyer on earth could spin it." Frederick stared at me. "You're going to use yourself as bait." "Jonathan, that's insane. That's suicide." "No," I said calmly. "It's justice, and I need your help to pull it off." I spent the next hour walking him through my plan. It was complex, dangerous, and required perfect timing. But if it worked, Christina, Ramon, and Billy would condemn themselves with their own actions. Frederick listened, occasionally interjecting with legal concerns, suggesting modifications. Finally, he sat back, shaking his head. "This is either brilliant or completely insane. Probably both." He met my eyes. "But if anyone can pull this off, it's you. God knows you've done crazier things for your documentaries. Will you help me?" "You're my brother," he said simply. "Of course I'll help you. But Jonathan, we do this smart. We keep the police in the loop, quietly. I have contacts in the DA's office. We'll make sure there's backup if things go sideways." I nodded. "Agreed. But Frederick, no one else knows. Not Vicky, not Mom, not anyone. If word leaks, they'll run." "Understood." He stood, gathering the files. "One question, why not just let the cops handle all of this? Why the elaborate scheme?" I thought about that. About 15 years of exposing evil, about believing in systems and justice and truth. About all the times I'd seen monsters escape consequences through technicalities, money, connections. "Because I want them to feel what I felt," I said quietly. "The betrayal, the fear, the realization that someone they trusted was destroying them. I want justice, Frederick, but I also want them to suffer for what they did." My brother studied me for a long moment. "You've changed. This harder version of you. I'm not sure I recognize it." "They tried to kill me," I said. "The old Jonathan died in that living room. This is who's left." The next week, I became the perfect Mark. Oblivious, trusting, vulnerable, everything they needed me to be. I made a show of going back to my normal routine, morning runs, work in my study, date nights with Christina. But I was careful to seem weak and still, to stumble occasionally, to mention how the headaches persisted. Maybe you should see a specialist, Christina suggested one morning, concern dripping from her voice. These symptoms shouldn't last this long. I'm sure it's fine, I said, playing right into her hands. Just need time to heal. Behind the scenes, my team was working overtime. Joe's surveillance tracked Ramon and Billy to increasingly frequent meetings. April discovered they'd opened a third bank account, this one in Christina's name too, preparing to transfer funds the moment my life insurance paid out. And Nurse Sherry, bless her, had kept detailed records of every medical irregularity, every suspicious pattern in my treatment history. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source, Vicky, Frederick's wife. Despite our strained relationship, Vicky was sharp. Frederick had told her nothing, per my instructions, but she'd noticed something at the dinner party that we'd all missed. She called me directly on day 8. Jonathan, I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it. She sounded nervous, unusual for Vicky, who was normally brash and overconfident. At your dinner party, I overheard Billy on the phone in your bathroom. She didn't know I was in the hallway. My pulse quickened. What did she say? She was talking about pills. Something about making sure the dose is right this time, and he can't survive 2 failures. Jonathan, I think they're planning to poison you. Vicky, thank you. This is important. Did she say when? No, but she mentioned the trip. Said it had to happen during the trip. The trip. Christina had been pushing for a weekend getaway, just the 2 of us, to a cabin upstate. To help you relax and heal, she'd said. I'd agreed, seeing it for what it was, an isolated location where an accident would be easy to stage. Vicky, I need you to trust me. Don't tell Frederick I called. I'll handle this. Jonathan, be careful. I know we've had our differences, but I don't want anything to happen to you. After we hung up, I sat in my office, pieces clicking together. The cabin trip was in 3 days. They were going to make their move then. Perfect. I called Christina, putting warmth in my voice. Hey babe, I've been thinking about our trip this weekend. Let's make it special. Maybe invite Ramon and Billy? Make it a couples retreat thing. We could all use some relaxation. A pause. I could practically hear her brain working, weighing options. Having witnesses would complicate their plan, but refusing would seem suspicious. That's a sweet idea, she said finally. But won't it be crowded? The cabin only has 2 bedrooms. Ramon can sleep on the pull-out couch. Billy can take the loft. Come on, it'll be fun. We haven't all hung out together since the dinner party. Another pause. Let me ask them. I'll call you back. 10 minutes later. They're in. Ramon's excited. Billy said she could use a break from work. This is going to be great. I smiled at the phone, cold satisfaction spreading through me. Yeah, it's going to be unforgettable. Day 10. Frederick met me at a secure location, a parking garage downtown where Joe's team had swept for surveillance devices. The DA's office is on board, Frederick said, handing me a folder. Assistant DA Kevin Clayton. He's solid, won't leak. But Jonathan, he wants guarantees. If you're setting up a sting, there needs to be evidence that'll hold up in court. There will be, I assured him. The cabin is wired with cameras and audio. Joe's team installed them yesterday while Christina was at her yoga class. Every room, every angle. Plus, I'll be wearing a wire. And here's the key. I'm switching the pills. I showed him a prescription bottle. These are what Christina thinks are my sleeping medication. But April had them analyzed. They're not sleeping pills. They're a cocktail designed to simulate heart failure. Mixed with alcohol, they'd be lethal within hours. Frederick's face paled. Jesus Christ. I've replaced them with harmless placebos. Same color, same size. When they slip these into my drink, and they will, I'll pretend to take them. I'll fake the symptoms. And when they think I'm dying, when they reveal their full plan on camera, that's when we move. This is incredibly dangerous. If something goes wrong. It won't, I said. Trust me, Frederick. I've spent 15 years putting myself in dangerous situations to get the truth. This is no different. It's completely different, my brother said quietly. This isn't some cartel boss or corporate criminal. This is your wife. The woman you loved. Doesn't that make it harder? I thought about that. About the woman I'd married 9 years ago, the life we built, the future I'd imagined. The woman I loved never existed, I said finally. Christina was always a performance. I was just too blind to see it. The morning of the trip, I packed carefully. Hidden in my toiletry bag, a tiny camera. Sewn into my jacket, a wire. In my wallet, A panic button that would alert Joe's team and law enforcement if activated. Christina was excited, almost manic. She'd packed multiple bottles of wine, insisted on bringing special snacks, made elaborate plans for the weekend. To anyone else, she'd seem like an enthusiastic wife planning a romantic getaway. I saw her for what she was, a murderer finalizing her plans. Ramon and Billy arrived at our house at 10 a.m. Ramon's car, a rental, I noticed, harder to trace, was packed with his own bags. Billy looked nervous, checking her phone constantly. Ready for an adventure? I asked cheerfully, throwing my bag in the trunk. Absolutely, Ramon said, his smile not reaching his eyes. Cabin in the woods, good friends, perfect weekend. The 3-hour drive was torture. Christina played DJ, chatting about nothing, touching my arm, playing the devoted wife. Ramon and Billy sat in the back, exchanging glances I wasn't supposed to notice. I played along, laughing at jokes, agreeing with plans, being the oblivious victim they needed. But inside, I was counting down to the moment they'd make their move, counting down to my revenge. Chapter 5, Into the Woods. The cabin sat deep in the Adirondacks, surrounded by dense forest and miles from the nearest neighbor. Christina had chosen it specifically for its isolation. I realized that now. The perfect place for an accident. This is beautiful, Billy said as we unpacked, though her voice carried an edge of nervousness. Private too, Ramon added, looking around. No one for miles. I'd been here once before, with Christina, 2 years ago. A happier time, or so I'd thought. Now every memory was tainted, every smile in retrospect a manipulation. Joe's team had done excellent work. The cameras were invisible, hidden in smoke detectors, embedded in picture frames, tucked into air vents. Every angle covered. The cabin was now a stage, and my would-be killers were about to perform their final act. Let's open some wine, Christina suggested. Celebrate being away from it all. It was 2 p.m. The poisoning, I suspected, would happen tonight at dinner or before bed. They'd want me unconscious early, give the drugs time to work, stage the scene while it was dark. I needed to stay sharp, stay in character, wait for them to commit. The afternoon passed in false camaraderie. We hiked a nearby trail, though I made sure to seem winded, holding my ribs as if they still ached. Ramon offered to help me, his hand on my arm almost proprietary, as if I were already a dead man. You're a good friend, I told him. I'm lucky Christina found you. Lucky wasn't the word I'd use later. Back at the cabin, Billy and Christina prepared dinner while Ramon and I sat on the deck. This was my chance to gather more evidence, to get him talking. Can I ask you something personal? I said, playing the vulnerable husband. Man to man. Sure, Jonathan. He leaned forward, interested. Do you think Christina's happy? In our marriage, I mean. Sometimes I worry I'm not enough for her. Not successful enough, not exciting enough. Ramon's expression shifted, a flash of contempt he couldn't quite hide. I think Christina's a remarkable woman. She deserves everything she wants. She married down, didn't she? I know her family has money. I'm just a journalist, barely scraping by most months. She could have done better. You shouldn't think like that, Ramon said, but I could hear the agreement in his tone. Marriage is about love, not money. Unless you're planning to kill for insurance money, I thought. Still, I continued. If anything happened to me, I'm glad she'd be taken care of. The life insurance, the will, at least she'd have financial security. Ramon's eyes glittered. That's very noble of you. Noble. As if planning for my own murder was selfless. Dinner was an elaborate affair. Christina had cooked my favorite meal, steak, roasted vegetables, garlic mashed potatoes. A condemned man's last supper, prepared by his executioner. The wine flowed freely. Christina kept refilling my glass, encouraging me to drink. You've been so stressed. Relax, enjoy yourself. I drank, but not as much as they thought. I'd learned a trick years ago during an investigation. Fake intoxication by pouring drinks into nearby plants when no one's looking. Stay sharp while appearing impaired. Around 9 p.m., Christina stood. Jonathan, why don't you take your medication? You've been complaining about headaches all day. There it was. Oh, right. Almost forgot. I headed to my bag in the bedroom, Christina following close behind. She watched as I pulled out the pill bottle, the one she'd tampered with, unaware I'd replaced the contents. Here, let me, she said, taking the bottle. She shook out 2 pills, double the normal dose. and handed them to me with a glass of water. Take both. They'll help you sleep. I looked at the pills in my palm. These were supposed to kill me. Christina thought she was handing me my death. Thanks, babe. I swallowed them dry, praying my sleight of hand worked. The real pills were hidden in my cheek. The placebos went down. Christina smiled, satisfied. Why don't you lie down for a bit? I'll clean up dinner with Billy and Ramon. Good idea. Suddenly feeling really tired. I wasn't, but I needed to play the part. I lay on the bed, listening as Christina left and closed the door. Through the hidden camera feed Frederick was monitoring remotely. My team would see everything. I just needed to wait for the pills to take effect. 30 minutes later, I began my performance. Chapter 6. The Trap Springs. I stumbled out of the bedroom, gripping the doorframe, letting my legs shake convincingly. Years of documentary work had taught me how to act on camera. Now I was starring in my own production. Christina? My voice came out slurred. Perfect. I don't feel good. She was on the couch with Ramon and Billy, wine glasses in hand, their conversation stopping abruptly when they saw me. Jonathan? Baby, what's wrong? Christina's performance was Oscar-worthy, the concerned wife, rushing to my side. Dizzy, hearts racing. I let myself sag against the wall. Something's wrong. Ramon stood, exchanging a look with Christina. Maybe he should lie down. No, I need. I stumbled toward the kitchen, knocking over a chair. Making it dramatic, making it count. Can't breathe right. Billy set down her wine, standing. Should we call 911? Let's wait a minute, Christina said quickly. He's probably just having a panic attack. The accident was traumatic. Sometimes delayed stress reactions happen. A panic attack. That was their cover story. I collapsed to my knees, clutching my chest. Through partially closed eyes, I watched them watch me. Waiting. Calculating. Ramon, help me get him to the bedroom, Christina said. They carried me. I made my body dead weight and laid me on the bed. I could feel my heart actually pounding now, adrenaline mixing with performance, the danger suddenly very real. This was it. The moment they'd reveal themselves. Is he unconscious? Billy's voice, from the doorway. Check his pulse, Ramon said. Christina's fingers pressed against my neck. Weak. Irregular. The pills are working. There it was. Confirmation. On camera. Recorded. Undeniable. How long? Ramon asked. The dose I gave him? With the alcohol? Maybe an hour. Maybe less. Christina's voice was cold, clinical. No pretense of love now. We need to stage it. Make it look natural. Heart attack in his sleep, Billy said. Stress from the accident. Underlying condition nobody knew about. We were all asleep when it happened. Tragic. They were planning my death like it was a business transaction. What about the insurance? Ramon asked. How fast can we access it? I have a contact at the insurance company, Billy said. She'll expedite the claim. Widows get sympathy. We pay her 20% of my share. She processes it within a week. And the body? Ramon again. We leave him here tonight, Christina said. Tomorrow morning, I discover him. Call 911 in hysterics. You two drove back to the city last night. You weren't even here. I'm the grieving widow who was sleeping in the other room. My body, they called me. Like I was already a corpse. $1 million, Christina continued. Split 3 ways. Plus the house, the savings, everything. Finally, I'll have what I deserve. What you've always deserved, Ramon said, and I heard them kiss. Right next to my dying body, my wife was kissing her lover. I'll be outside, Billy said, disgust in her voice. Let me know when it's done. When it's done. When I was dead. I waited, counting heartbeats, until Christina and Ramon left the room. Through slitted eyes, I saw them join Billy on the deck, breaking open champagne, celebrating their murder. Time to move. I sat up, adrenaline clearing my fake symptoms. My hands found the panic button in my wallet. One press. Signal sent. Joe's team and law enforcement were 15 minutes out. Frederick was with them. I just needed to survive until then. I grabbed my phone, pulling up the camera feeds Joe had given me access to. Every word, every confession, every damning second had been recorded. They'd condemned themselves perfectly. But I wasn't done. I wanted them to know. To see the trap they'd walked into. To feel the betrayal I'd felt. I walked to the deck door and opened it. 3 faces turned toward me. Shock, horror, disbelief painted across their features. Surprise, I said. I'm not dead. Christina's face went white. Jonathan, you should be. Dying? Yeah, about those pills. I held up the bottle. Had them analyzed weeks ago. Impressive cocktail, digitalis, potassium, just enough to mimic heart failure. Would have worked too, if I hadn't switched them for sugar pills. Ramon moved forward, aggressive. I saw the calculation in his eyes. I was a loose end that needed elimination. Don't, I warned. You're on camera. Every word you've said tonight has been recorded. Every confession, every plan. It's over. You're bluffing, Billy said, but her voice shook. I pointed to the smoke detector, the picture frame, the air vent. Waved to the cameras. You've just starred in your own documentary. Title? The Conspiracy to Commit Murder, a True Crime Story. Christina's shock transformed into rage. You bastard. You set us up. No, sweetheart. You set yourselves up. I just gave you the rope. You hanged yourselves with it. This is illegal, she shrieked. Recording without consent. Single-party consent state. I interrupted. And even if it wasn't, conspiracy to commit murder trumps wiretapping laws. But good try. Ramon lunged. I sidestepped, years of self-defense training kicking in. He was bigger, stronger, but I was motivated. My fist connected with his jaw, dropping him. That's for the beating you gave me, I said. The one where you hit me from behind like a coward. Sirens wailed in the distance. Getting closer. No, no, no. Christina was panicking now, pulling out her phone. I'll delete everything. Too late. Everything's backed up. Cloud storage, my attorney, the DA's office. Even if you destroy every device here, it doesn't matter. Red and blue lights flickered through the trees. Car doors slamming. Voices shouting. Police. Nobody moved. Officers swarmed the cabin. I raised my hands, staying calm. Jonathan Stout. I'm the homeowner. These 3 people attempted to murder me for insurance money. Everything's recorded. Frederick appeared with Assistant DA Kevin Clayton. They'd heard everything through the wire, had backup recordings, had it all documented. Christina Stout, Ramon Osborne, Billy Harrington, Clayton said formally. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, fraud, and a list of other charges that'll keep you in prison for the next 20 years. Watching them get handcuffed, Christina crying, Ramon silent and seething, Billy begging. I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. Justice wasn't blind. Sometimes it just took patience. Chapter 7. The Unraveling. The next 72 hours were a blur of police statements, legal proceedings, and media circus. Turned out, a conspiracy to murder a documentary filmmaker made for irresistible headlines. Journalist catches wife in murder plot. Documentary filmmaker's final film. His own attempted assassination, love, lies, and life insurance. The Stout case. I gave one interview to a trusted colleague at 60 Minutes, and then went silent. Let the evidence speak. And it spoke volumes. The DA's office built an airtight case. Everything I'd gathered, the video from Matthew, the audio recordings, the financial evidence, the surveillance footage, the staged confession at the cabin, painted a picture so damning that Christina's expensive attorney advised her to take a plea deal. She refused. I'm innocent, she told the press, playing the wronged wife. Jonathan set me up because he wanted a divorce and didn't want to split assets. The jury didn't buy it. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I testified for 6 hours, walking through every piece of evidence, every moment of betrayal. The courtroom was packed. True crime junkies, journalists, people who couldn't believe a wife could be so cold. When they played the audio of Christina discussing my body with Ramon and Billy, several jurors looked sick. The verdict came back in 4 hours, guilty on all counts. Christina, 25 years. Ramon, 20 years. Billy, 15 years. No parole eligibility for 10 years minimum. As they led Christina out of the courtroom, she looked at me one last time. No more masks, no more performances. Just hatred in its purest form. I hope you're happy, she spat. I'm not, I said honestly. But I'm alive, which is more than you planned for me. With the trial over, I had to figure out who Jonathan Stout was now. The man I'd been, trusting, idealistic, believing in love, had died in that living room. This new version was harder, more cautious, scarred in ways that didn't show. Frederick helped me pick up the pieces. Over beers in his Boston apartment, he asked the question everyone was dancing around. What now? I don't know, I admitted. Go back to documentary work? Every story I tell now, people will see it through the lens of my case. The filmmaker who caught his wife. It'll define me. So redefine yourself, Frederick said. You've spent 15 years telling other people's stories. Maybe it's time to tell your own. He was right. I'd been a chronicler, an observer, someone who documented life without fully living it. That needed to change. I sold the house. Couldn't stand to be in those rooms, surrounded by memories that were really lies. Used the money to buy a small cabin in Vermont, isolated but peaceful. A place to heal. Matthew Townsend, the kid who'd saved my life, got a college scholarship I quietly funded. He wanted to study film. Because of you, he told me. You showed me that cameras can capture truth, can make a difference. I hired him as an intern, teaching him everything I knew. Kid had talent, and more importantly, he had courage. Nurse Sherry Gamble received a letter of commendation from the medical board for her attention to detail and patient advocacy. I made sure the story was told, how her instincts and integrity had been crucial in exposing the conspiracy. She deserved recognition. But some wounds don't heal clean. 6 months after the trial, I was in my cabin, editing footage for a new project, a documentary about victim advocacy and domestic conspiracy cases, when my phone rang. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Jonathan. The voice was female, older, cultured. This is Sue Conley, Christina's mother. My hand tightened on the phone. I'd never met Christina's parents. They'd cut her off years before we met, and she'd always claimed they were toxic, controlling. Now I wondered what the real story was. Mrs. Conley, I'm surprised to hear from you. I'm sure you are. She paused. I need you to understand something. My daughter, what she did was monstrous. Unforgivable. But she wasn't always like this. Why are you calling me? Because you deserve to know the truth. The full truth. Her voice cracked slightly. Christina's father and I cut her off when she was 25 because we discovered she'd stolen nearly $200,000 from our accounts. Forged checks, accessed trust funds, funneled money to a boyfriend who was using her. I sat down heavily. She told me you cut her off for lifestyle choices. That was the euphemism we used. In reality, we'd learned our daughter was a sociopath. Clinical diagnosis from 3 separate psychologists. No empathy, no conscience, exceptional at manipulation. Sue's voice was raw with pain. We tried to get her help. She refused. Said the doctors were wrong, that we were the problem. We cut her off to protect ourselves and in hopes tough love might shock her into accepting treatment. It didn't. No. It made her better at hiding what she was. A long exhale. When I read about what she did to you, about the poison, the planning, the coldness, I wasn't shocked. I was heartbroken, but not shocked. Because that's who my daughter is. Why tell me this now? Because in her letters from prison, she blames you. Says you ruined her life, destroyed her future. She started a blog, Justice for Christina, claiming she's an innocent woman framed by a vengeful husband. Sue's voice hardened. I can't let her rewrite history again. I'm going public with her psychological records, with the history she's been hiding. Not to hurt her more, but to stop her from hurting anyone else with her lies. That's brave, I said quietly. It's necessary. Jonathan, I'm sorry. Sorry we didn't warn you somehow. Sorry we didn't do more years ago. I look at my daughter and wonder where we went wrong, what we missed. You didn't miss anything, I told her. Some people are just broken in ways we can't fix. You tried. That's more than most parents would do. After we hung up, I sat in the silence of my cabin, processing. Christina hadn't just betrayed me on a whim. This was who she'd always been, a predator in disguise, and I'd been her latest mark. But I'd survived. And in surviving, I'd stopped her from doing this to anyone else. That had to count for something. Chapter 8. New Beginnings. A year after the trial, my documentary, Till Death Do Us Part, a true crime story, premiered at Sundance. I debated making it, turning my trauma into content felt exploitative, even to myself. But Frederick convinced me. Your story could save lives, he'd said. How many people are in relationships with hidden predators? How many miss the signs because they want to believe in love? Tell the story, Jonathan. Make it mean something. So I did. The film wasn't just about my case. It was a deep dive into conspiracies within families, the psychology of betrayal, the red flags people ignore. I interviewed psychologists, law enforcement, other survivors. I included Christina's mother, Sue, who spoke eloquently about missing signs and parental guilt. And yes, I included my own story, raw, unfiltered, painful. The beatings, the poison, The trap I'd set. Everything. The response was overwhelming. A masterclass in investigative journalism and personal storytelling, wrote the New York Times. Unflinching, devastating, essential viewing, said Variety. But more importantly, I got messages. Hundreds of them. People who'd watched and recognized patterns in their own relationships. People who'd gotten out before it was too late. People who'd reported suspicions about loved ones and discovered conspiracies. Your film saved my life, one woman wrote. I was married to someone planning to kill me. I didn't see it until I saw your story and recognized the signs. That made it worth it. I was at the cabin, 2 years post-trial, when Frederick called with news. Ramon Osborne tried to appeal. Claimed prosecutorial misconduct, improper evidence gathering. Frederick sounded amused. The appeal was denied. Unanimously. The judge called his claims frivolous and insulting to the court's intelligence. Good, I said. What about the others? Billy Harrington's serving her sentence quietly. Model prisoner, apparently. Christina. He paused. Christina's been a problem. Multiple infractions, fights with other inmates, trying to manipulate staff. She's in administrative segregation now. Even in prison, Christina couldn't help being exactly who she was. There's something else, Frederick continued. The pharmaceutical company that employed Billy? They're facing a massive lawsuit. Turns out she wasn't the only employee falsifying sales records and bribing doctors. Your investigation uncovered a whole network of fraud. Federal charges pending. Dominoes falling. One truth exposing others. How's your practice? I asked, changing the subject. Busy. Good busy. He hesitated. I left Vicky. That caught me off guard. When? 6 months ago. Your case. Watching what you went through, how you were manipulated. It made me look hard at my own marriage. Vicky was a different kind of toxic, but toxic nonetheless. Constant drama, manufactured crises, turning family against each other. He sighed. I'm better without her. Should have done it years ago. I'm sorry, Frederick. Don't be. You inspired me. Not just with the investigation, but with the courage to walk away from something destructive. To choose yourself. A pause. I'm seeing someone new. Joan Murray. She's a mediator, handles complex negotiations. Smart, kind, real. You'd like her. I'm happy for you. I said, meaning it. You should come to Boston. Meet her. Have dinner like normal people. Normal people. Was I one of those anymore? The 3rd anniversary of my accident fell on a Tuesday. I spent it hiking in the Vermont woods, camera in hand, documenting wildlife for a new project about recovery, both ecological and personal. Matthew, now a sophomore at NYU's film school, called to check in. How you doing, Mr. Stout? Jonathan, I corrected, like I always did. And I'm good. You? Great. Just finished a short film for class. Professor loved it. Said I have an eye for truth. Pride in his voice. Learned from the best. We talked for an hour, about film, about life, about the strange path that had connected us. Without Matthew's courage, I'd be dead. He'd saved me, and in a weird way, I'd helped him find his calling. Life's strange symmetries. After we hung up, I continued my hike, reaching an overlook as the sun began to set. The valley below was painted in gold and amber, peaceful and untouched. I thought about Jonathan Stout at 36, the man who trusted too easily, loved too deeply, missed every red flag. That man was gone. But the man who'd survived, the one standing on this overlook, scarred but stronger, he was still here, still fighting, still living. And that was its own kind of victory. Chapter 9, The Final Frame. 5 years after the trial, I stood in a Manhattan gallery, surrounded by photographs I'd taken over the previous year. The exhibition was called After the Fall, a double meaning referencing both my attack and the concept of rebuilding after trauma. The images told stories, a tree growing through abandoned building ruins, a phoenix moth emerging from its cocoon, a battlefield in Bosnia, now reclaimed by wildflowers. Resilience in visual form. These are extraordinary, a voice said behind me. I turned to find a woman around my age, blonde hair, intelligent eyes, studying my work with genuine interest. The composition, the symbolism, they're saying something without being heavy-handed. That's the goal, I said. Sometimes the best stories are the ones that let the audience interpret. You're Jonathan Stout. She extended her hand. April Romero. I'm familiar with your documentary work. I recognize the name. She was the forensic accountant who'd helped me untangle Christina's financial web. We'd never met in person. April, your work was crucial to the case. Thank you. Just doing my job. Though I have to say, watching your documentary, seeing how you turned your trauma into something meaningful, that was inspiring. She gestured to the photographs. And this? This is healing made visible. We talked for an hour. About art, about truth, about the ways trauma reshapes us. She was sharp, funny, completely genuine. When she mentioned she was divorced, he was embezzling from his own company. Ironically, we shared a laugh about the absurdity of betrayal. Dinner sometime? I asked, surprising myself. I hadn't dated in 5 years, hadn't been interested. But April felt different. Safe. Real. I'd like that, she said, her smile reaching her eyes. Maybe I could trust again. Cautiously, carefully. But maybe. 6 months later, Frederick and Joan visited me in Vermont. They'd gotten married in a small ceremony. No drama, no spectacle, just 2 people choosing each other. It suited them. Place looks good, Frederick said, surveying the cabin I'd renovated. You've made it a home. Trying to, I said. Some days are easier than others. That's life, Joan said, wise and warm. The easy days and the hard days. But you're still here, still building. That matters. Over dinner, Frederick brought up the inevitable. Christina's up for parole next year. Probably won't get it. Her behavior's been terrible, but there'll be a hearing. You'll need to make a statement. I thought about this. What I'd say to the woman who'd tried to erase me. I'll be there, I said. Not because I hate her. Honestly, I don't feel much for her anymore. But I'll be there to make sure the parole board knows exactly who they're considering releasing. Ramon's keeping his head down, Frederick continued. Model prisoner now. Might get early release in 8 years if he maintains it. And Billy. Out in 2 years with good behavior. She's expressed remorse, completed programs, stayed out of trouble. Frederick shrugged. Sometimes people genuinely change. Sometimes they just learn to play the game better. Truth was, I didn't think about them much anymore. They'd taken up enough space in my life. Now I was focused on what I was building, not what I'd lost. 7 years after that night in the cabin, I received a letter from an unexpected source. The envelope was marked with a prison return address. Inside, a single page in Christina's handwriting. Jonathan, I won't apologize. I won't claim I've changed or found God or any of the redemption narratives people expect. But I will tell you this. You were right about me. I am exactly what those psychologists said, incapable of genuine connection, driven by self-interest, devoid of the empathy that makes people human. I don't regret trying to kill you. I regret failing. The only thing I feel about that night is frustration that you were smarter than I gave you credit for. Why am I writing this? Because unlike most people in here, I'm done pretending. You won. You survived. You rebuilt. Good for you. I'll die in here, parole denied again last month, and honestly, I'm fine with that. The world outside holds nothing for me anymore. You made sure of that. I suppose you think this should make me a cautionary tale. The beautiful wife who was secretly a monster. But I'm not a tale. I'm not a lesson. I'm just someone who wanted something and did what I had to do to get it. That's all any of us are. Live your life, Jonathan. I certainly can't live mine. See, I read the letter 3 times, then burned it in the fireplace. Some words don't deserve to be saved. Christina was right about one thing. She wasn't a cautionary tale. She was just a predator who got caught. The real story was what came after. The rebuilding, the healing, the choice to live fully despite everything. On the 10th anniversary of my attack, I sat in my cabin with April beside me. We'd been together for 4 years, married for 1. Slow, careful, but real. You okay? She asked, sensing my reflection. I'm good, I said honestly. Just thinking about how different life is now. Matthew Townsend, now a successful documentary filmmaker in his own right, had sent a gift, a framed photo from the night he'd filmed the attack. But he'd cropped it, removing the violence, focusing instead on my living room window where my laptop glowed. The caption read, "This is where the story began," but not where it ended. My phone rang. Frederick, calling to check in like he always did on this date. "How's my favorite documentary filmmaker?" he asked. "Your favorite? I thought that was Matthew now. Co-favorites. Don't make me choose." He laughed. "Joan and I are thinking of coming up next month. She wants to see Vermont in the fall." "You're always welcome," I said. "Both of you." After we hung up, I looked around my cabin, at the life I'd rebuilt, at the woman who'd chosen to be part of it, at the future that had almost been stolen. Jonathan Stout at 36 had trusted the wrong person and nearly died for it. Jonathan Stout at 46 knew that trust wasn't the enemy, blindness was. And I would never be blind again. What are you thinking? April asked. That I'm lucky, I said. Not because of what happened to me, but because of what happened after. The people who showed up. The second chances. The proof that you can survive the worst and still find the best. She kissed my cheek. You earned that, Jonathan. Every bit of it. Maybe I had. Maybe surviving wasn't just about making it through the darkness. It was about choosing to walk back into the light. And that's exactly what I'd done. Epilogue. On a cold morning in late November, Jonathan Stout stood in front of a classroom at NYU's film school, guest lecturing Matthew Townsend's advanced documentary course. Truth isn't just about facts, he told the students. It's about context, about patterns, about the stories we tell ourselves versus the stories that actually are. My work has always been about finding that truth, even when it's uncomfortable. A student raised her hand. Mr. Stout, your most famous documentary is about your own attempted murder. Was it hard to be both the subject and the filmmaker? Incredibly hard, Jonathan admitted, but also necessary. Sometimes the only way to process trauma is to examine it the way you'd examine any other story, with honesty, with distance, with the understanding that your pain can become someone else's lesson. After class, Matthew walked him out. You still inspire them, Matthew said. Every semester, your work is what students want to talk about most. Your generation gives me hope, Jonathan replied. You're not cynical about truth. You still believe it matters. Because you showed us it does, Matthew said simply. That evening, Jonathan returned to Vermont. April had dinner waiting, wine poured, life continuing in its beautiful, ordinary way. And for the first time in a decade, when Jonathan Stout closed his eyes to sleep, he didn't dream of basements or beatings or betrayal. He dreamed of the next story he'd tell, the next truth he'd uncover, the next chapter of a life that refused to be defined by its darkest moment. Because in the end, that was the ultimate victory. Not just surviving, but thriving. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.